Hello and welcome to a very, very special episode of National League Natter. Now, 2 episodes in a week, we are really spoiling you here, but we have a very, very special guest with us today, and that guest is Steve Morison, the Sutton United manager. So first, Steve, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. We are very, very excited to have you here.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Aaron. Thanks for having me, Lauren.
Now,
Thank you.
The first thing I wanted to sort of speak to you about is I remember you a little bit as a player. So I'm an Oldham Athletic fan, and
All right.
I came to watch Oldham versus Millwall twice.
I scored the goal that sent me down, didn't I?
Yeah, exactly. See, he remembers.
I always remember your goals. You always remember your goals.
And I remember you were just an absolute, in the best way, you were a physical menace. That's how I would probably put your play style. Like you were just a nightmare for any sort of EFL defenders during that time. But sort of the first thing that we want to touch upon with you is going sort of from that switch to a player to knowing that your sort of after career belongs in management. What did that look like for you, and how did you know that you wanted to try and take on the task of being a manager?
It's one of those situations where you kind of actually. I spoke to a few people. I see Sam Boakes the other day when I was playing against Wickham in a behind closed doors game, and he was like, "Didn't see you doing it, this type of role when you was a player." But the reality is, you start doing your coaching badges, you start enjoying doing your coaching badges, and you go through each one, so BA and Pro, and then as you're going along doing them, you're like, "Oh, actually, really enjoying this." I like being organised. I like the structural side of the game, etc., etc. And then obviously when you're playing and doing the coach badge at the same time, you start to learn the game a bit more. And you just ultimately, I know people have said it recently, but it's all you know. You love the game.
Yeah.
You love being involved in it. It gets you up every morning outside of everything else you have going on in your life, which you get up for, like your kids, etc. But it gives you something to wake up in the morning and you look forward to going to work. You look forward to going to work with good people and trying to instill a little bit of your wisdom and what you've experienced, as well as trying to be the best you can be at doing it. So it's great. And I said every day you get, in this weather, you get to have a pair of shorts on and a t-shirt and standing out there in the sun and playing football when I suppose there's a lot worse things you could be doing.
Absolutely. And obviously your managerial career kind of kick-started at Cardiff City. Obviously you were put in interim caretaker charge till the end of the season, and I'm right in thinking your first game as manager, you were 3-0 down with 25 minutes to go and you drew 3-3, is that right?
Yeah, we played Stoke, and obviously I was given the game for 3 games, I think it was, and towards the international break, and you're 3-0 down in the first half, and you're just like, wow.
I'm guessing.
Going back.
Yeah, I'm guessing that you must have been obviously very sort of delighted that was kind of like the ideal sort of audition for you, wasn't it? In terms of showing that sort of steel to get back in the game in such like surroundings where people probably would have wrote you off otherwise, you know. So I think obviously off the back of that, I remember Vincent Tan, the owner at Cardiff at the time, said that he was very impressed with your attacking sort of style, and obviously ultimately gave you the job on a permanent basis off the back of that. But do you think being a striker, did you always have the sort of idea of like, you know, that you wanted to sort of play front foot attacking football and like ultimately score more goals than the opposition? Like, was that always your play style, and has that come from you as a player, like wanting to score goals as well?
Yeah, of course. Like I said, playing up front, I suppose I'd hate it when the ball wasn't coming towards me or we wasn't attacking, because I'd just get bored, and I'd hate it when a team got a man sent off and we was winning and we didn't try and score anymore. I was always of the mindset, I want to score 4, 5, 6. Let's just see how many goals we can get. Let's just don't worry about that. But obviously, going on the other side of the fence, you do understand it. But yeah, I think, look, why are we in the world we're in now in terms of the social world and podcasts and all that? Because it's an entertainment business. We want something to talk about. We want to go and enjoy what we do. We want to go to work. We want to enjoy it. We want fans to come and enjoy what we do. And yeah, like we had a game like we had at the weekend. It was horrible. No one enjoyed that. But you're going to have that. But yeah, the style is let's go and enjoy it. Let's go and score goals. Let's go and be fun. Yeah, we want to. Don't get me wrong. We don't want to concede goals as well. But my way of not conceding goals is by being on the front foot, not
Yeah,
sitting
absolutely.
there and locking up shop and waiting for teams to attack and try and keep them on the counter attack. I want to go and want to get the ball by the horns and score some goals and
I
enjoy
think
it.
it's refreshing to hear that from a manager nowadays, because I think you look at football generally from an outsider and you see it's so much more of like a, cat and mouse game, like the tactics, who's going to break tactics first. Whereas actually, if you break it down, as simple as it is, it's just as long as you put the ball in your opposition's net more times than them, you're going to win the game. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that. You can get lost in sort of the tactical battle sometimes. So it's very refreshing to hear that, really. And like, so your time at Cardiff, you picked up a Championship Manager of the Month award,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously you signed a contract extension off the back of that. But going into the new season, am I right in thinking that you only won three of the first 10 games, and that led to your like you leaving Cardiff?
Yeah, look, we won. We won 3, drew 2, or drew 3, something like that. Lost 4. Yeah, look, it is what it is. I just put 17 new players in a squad. It's going
Yeah,
to take time to gel. And
absolutely.
the funniest thing is, I got more points per game in those 10 games than they averaged in the whole season. So um,
Well,
it
well.
is what it is. And I said we drew a line under it. It was yeah, it was tough to take, but ultimately, yeah, you can't worry about what's happened in the past. But the facts are the facts.
So obviously, from the back of that, then you took probably what people would consider quite a sizable drop down the English football pyramid in terms of management. You managed at Hornchurch
Yeah,
for a period of time, and obviously at that time and throughout your time at Hornchurch, you were flying. I think it's fair to say you were absolutely flying. The fans loved you. You were on this mad sort of run and top of the table and runaway leaders, and sort of how did that sort of move materialize, and sort of are you grateful of that sort of time, albeit quite a short period in the sort of lower end of the English football pyramid? Because do you think it's give you a better grounding to be the manager that you think you are today?
yeah. Look, I needed it. I loved it. I said I met the owner, Alex, and I made a conscious effort that once I left Cardiff, that I'd try and pick my next job based on how it fitted my life, how it the people I was working for, all of those different things, and it worked. Uh, and doing the job very very happy made the job what it was, and obviously the toughest one was actually leaving. It was really emotional leaving for everybody, and yeah, I'd have only done it if I felt like I was going to work for good people at a good place, and that has turned out to be the case. I work for an amazing group of people now as well, and yeah, just your life takes you in different ways. When I played, I started in League Two, League One, dropped all the way down to Conference South, um, built my way back up, and I said everything's just a life experience. And the one thing I've learned massively now is that you've got to enjoy what you're doing, and if
Yeah.
you can put your head on the pillow at night and know that you've done it in the best way you can and you've enjoyed it, then results are easier to take when you lose and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously something that will happen. Um, but yeah, look, it was a great job. I had a great time, great people, lads were amazing. The owner and the supporting staff were amazing, and yeah, to a fact, I still speak to them all now. So that's just where you are, and yeah, I work for a good group of people now. So yeah, I'm really enjoying.
So you talked about how that sort of decision to leave Hornchurch and obviously take the Sutton job was probably like one of the hardest decisions that you've had to make personally in your managerial career. How so? Like, was it just the allure of obviously Sutton being EFL at the time, and you wanted to try and cut your teeth with an AFL side, and was the sort of opportunity too sort of big to turn down, even though you were doing so well and you were such runaway leaders in the division that you were with Hornchurch?
Yeah, look, it was just the opportunity. I spoke to a few clubs in that period. And obviously, I'd been offered another job and I didn't take it because it didn't feel right. Obviously, I got offered this job, and just when I went through with Church, and he said, "Yeah, look, go through the process, see what happens." Because the year I was out, you hardly went through any processes. No one wanted to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like go and have these experiences, go and have interviews, go and learn, and you go and do that. And yeah, the whole process was just really good, really nice, really enjoyed it. Did I feel like I could make change? Yes. Did I feel like we could keep them in the league? I felt, yeah. I thought there was still a chance, even though it was a long shot. And yeah, it'd have been ultimate achievement if we'd done it. Obviously, we didn't. But yeah, the opportunity to go a couple of leagues above where we were, new worst case scenarios, if we're dropping down into the National League. It was something we spoke about in the interviews. Would we stay full time? Would we stay being like a professional club? Yep. So it was a good job to take as long as I backed myself to be able to get some performances and to get the club going in a better direction, because that was the main focus of the task.
I think that's really interesting because I remember at the time, obviously Sutton were rock bottom of League Two, and they were probably many people's favourites to sort of be nailed on for that relegation. And I think for the sort of first month, you brought in sort of like a real sort of steely determination. Obviously, you won 4 games on the spin, and there was a period where people were thinking maybe the impossible survival job could have happened, but ultimately it didn't. And obviously, you're here now in the National League. Just before we get on to like Sutton more generally and like your aims for this season and everything like that, I just wanted to get sort of your sort of perspective from managing in the EFL a little bit to then going a bit further in non-league pyramid to where you are now with Sutton. What are the key differences in management, in your opinion, from EFL level to like National League level and below?
I think it's massively changed. I think looking at the teams we're going to come up against this year, looking at the managers in the league, everyone's trying to work off the same remit. I think it's a lot more professional than it was. There's only a few teams which are part-time stroke hybrid in the league this year. And the game's changing, society's changing, everything's shifting. The old school isn't really, and whatever people's vision of the old school isn't really there anymore. There's still the odd team, like the game at the weekend, like we've drawn a line under that. We won't face that again this year until we play them again. You look at every game and every team, everyone's trying to build, everyone's trying to play through the thirds. And the National Leagues, compared to say League Two, is exactly the same. That's why often a lot of National Leagues go up to League Two and they do okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because there isn't a massive. The jump becomes the top 6 of the League Two, and then League One it becomes a big jump. And you see, why don't the teams who get relegated bounce straight back up? Because they often fall into the same bracket. Like there's a lot of teams in the top half of the National League that could go and play in League Two now. Not a problem.
I think it's interesting because obviously you're preaching to the right people here. So I'm an Oldham Athletic fan. So this is our 3rd season in the National League, and Lauren here is a Stockport County fan. Now, although Stockport are at the right. Yeah, well, so we brought her on because she had so much experience in the National League prior, and obviously they dropped into the National League North for a period. But obviously it's such a competitive league now, and nobody's got a right to beat anyone at this level, really. I think anyone can beat anyone, and like I just wanted to touch upon obviously the sort of final little bit of stuff from sort of switching from a player to a manager in terms of probably the time when you were playing. Like, I think there's so much more now between like the football psychology type of things and how much you have to like look after players, and there's so much more than just just a Saturday afternoon or just a Tuesday night in terms of what you have to do with players. How is like the dressing room sort of culture changed in your opinion from like your playing days to where you are as a manager now?
How far do you want me to go back to my playing days? So
Listen, you can
we
tell us
never even
anything
had,
you want to
we
tell us.
just
Don't worry about it.
we just about had mobile phones when I started playing. So we was yeah. Look, the whole life's changed. The whole world's changed. It has. It's like, as I said, you've gone from barely having, now everything's on the internet, isn't it? So like we live a what do you want to call it, like a TikTok life or whatever it is
Yeah,
now. Like there's nothing like relaxed about it. Everyone's like, it's just different. You walk into the dressing room now, everyone sits on their phone, don't they? It's just, you walk into the canteen, you try and force them to sit and eat, and they do on the general, on the whole, but there's still, yeah, it's a social world. It's a different world. When we call social, we mean social. What we used to be is it's actually, we used to be social with each other,
yeah,
and do social things. Whereas now it's like, together, we're on our phones. Okay, no problem. But that's just how it's changed. And the mental side of the game is huge. Like, you'd have a bad game 20 years ago, and unless someone actually physically come up to you and told you had a bad, no, but you know in your head if you had a bad game, and you just get on with it. Whereas now, you want to have social media, then ultimately you'll get told you've had a bad game by 1,000 people you don't even know.
yeah,
So we have to manage that. It's an extra arm to the game that we have to look into, which is the mental side of the game. And yeah, it's just the way kids and everyone they can't deal with that adversity as well as what we used to be able to deal with back in the day. But yeah, we have to adapt with it. If we don't adapt, we'll die. So we need to make sure we adapt.
that's a great quote. Actually, that's a great quote. And I think from an outside looking in, social media. Obviously, I imagine the life as a football manager, you've got your own sort of internal targets to hit, and obviously, I imagine you block out the noise. But it must be hard sometimes because, like you say, anyone and everyone can have an opinion of your team's performance or how you've played, and we're just seeing maybe 2-3 minutes of a highlights package. Is that difficult, like to try and block out the sort of external noise, and how do you do that, like as a manager, and how do you get your players to just focus on, like, because I always think this sometimes, like you go away from a game and they'll say XX has had a really poor performance today. Like, how do you know that player doesn't log on and search for his name on social media? You don't know what that sort of does to a player's sort of mental space. But I think as a fan, you can just get caught up on it. So how do you make sure you block out for yourself as a manager, but also to sort of protect your players a little bit?
Yeah, look, you always protect your players. We always analyse everything. You always look if it is like, players know, but I've said you're right. Players do go online. I'm sure there's plenty of people who put their name in to see what people are saying about it, because it goes both ways. You have a good game, everyone wants to
Yeah,
see all the good things you put out. How do I block it out? I go and watch the fans' games at the end of the season when they play against each other, and it's like, well, these are the guys who are hammering you every week, and they can't play football. So understand that ultimately we're here to do a job. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. No one deserves to be abused. No one deserves to be told they're not very good. And my advice to players always is just like, if you don't want to see it, don't go looking for it. Yeah, because
yeah,
you'll see it, and ultimately everyone gets frustrated. We all, with yourself, you get frustrated with other people. But I just think sometimes people need to remember that when they do say things, you can't take it away once you've said it.
yeah,
So just have a little think, like, did that player mean to miss that chance? Did that player mean to um, not clear the ball or miss that tackle or whatever? I highly doubt it. So it's making sure that obviously, as you've got to be a strong enough person mentally to understand that, sometimes people are just saying stuff out of frustration, and ultimately, if they every single person also that's normally says something would love to swap places with you as well, because it's a specialist job, and that's why only 0.01% of kids make it to be a professional football player.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we will sort of move on now to sort of Sutton and the current time and the current season. And again, from an outside looking in, even though you had the disappointment of relegation, I think that it's quite an exciting time to be a Sutton fan, if I'm being honest, in terms of, you've had outside investment from a celebrity in Paul C. Brunson this season, and you've had like a new club crest, obviously new kits, and I just wanted to speak to you a little bit about obviously that investment. And first of all, have you spoken to the man himself yet, and how will sort of his operations of Sutton United on a day-to-day basis, how does that affect your job going forward? And obviously, are you excited for that change, and like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, look, I spoke to him. I met him a few times last year when he came to the games. It doesn't change anything. He's an investor. He's a part of people. So nothing changes from that point of view. Got us to design the new kit, which looks amazing. Obviously, he's better dressed than any of us, so he's a great place to great person to pick it. Yeah, he's a really good guy. He's really cool. He's really passionate about it. He'll bring a lot of outside attention, which is good as well. He's got lots of great ideas, bringing 100 underprivileged or from a ethnic minority, etc. Background to the games. Every game where he comes, so it's a great engagement. It's bringing new people, bringing a younger audience, bringing a different audience. Yeah, so we're bringing what I don't know. I don't watch them as much. The MAFS and all those kind of fans paying attention. So Love Is Blind and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that would be great. But yeah, look, we've got so much good stuff going on. We've got a new pitch. We've had a brand new pitch laid in conjunction with Crystal Palace. So we've got arguably one of the best pitches from here to the Championship now, which is amazing. And yeah, it's exciting times. We've got a brand new squad. We've only got 3 players left from last year. For whatever reason that was, obviously some of it was taken out of our hands, some of it was needs to be. But we've got a fresh group, and we've got a group that wants to learn, they want to enjoy things, and yeah, we want to play attacking football, and obviously hopefully we can all grow together.
Yeah, obviously you've just mentioned the new players coming in, like 17 new players coming into the team. How's it been trying to get everyone to gel? Because that's such a big turnover. Not necessarily whether that was, like you say, planned that you'd get that much of a turnover, but how's it been sort of getting the team together and starting to gel at all?
Yeah, look, it's been great. As I said, I've got like-minded people. Did a lot of work in finding out how they are as people, and what their background is, what they're like as human beings. And do you know what? They're all similar ages. We've got an average age of 24 in the squad. So we've got a couple of the older lads as well, but they're really good guys like Jacko and Arnie. And then you've got like people like Ashley Nadeson, who we've brought in recently to kind of add that little bit of experience, but then he's really good friends with someone else in the group, so there's a connection there. And yeah, look, when I was putting it together in the summer, it was like, oh, we've got a little car school there. There's 4 people that can travel in together. They all live in the same area, so yeah, look, it was about just them spending time together. I said we're based at the stadium, so they get to spend a lot of time there. I force them to come in at a certain time, so they have to spend at least like an hour and a half before we're training with each other and that kind of stuff. And yeah, look, is it going to take time? 100%, 100% to get it right. But like you can see the way together. And as I said, coming back in on Saturday, conceding in the 80-odd minute or whatever, and scoring again in the 91st means that they're together and they're willing to fight for each other, which is a nice thing to see.
I think it's really interesting that, because like I think the community and sort of being together is such a big ethos from what I can see from Sutton, across your social media. I touched back on, the Paul C. Brunton video a little bit to announce his investment, and he was, talking about how big of a part the community and the fans are going to play in this, and you've just mentioned that you sort of bed that down to your playing squad. How big of sort of making sure the friends are off the pitch, how important do you think that is mentally again for a winning and hungry promotion pushing side? And like, do you value that sort of time off the pitch as equally as you do it on the pitch? And is it like, basically, what can the Sutton fans do as a community to make sure that they're driving right behind and you're all pulling in the same direction,
Yeah, look, I think it is massive. When I think back to when I was a player or teams I've been involved in, it's always the best group of people, the best group of players. Enjoy spending time if you enjoy being around. Everyone's their own person, so everyone kind of does. Some people are really like outgoing and social. Some people are really quiet. Some people are really. But when you step over that white line on a match day and you're in the dressing room together, and I think that's massively important. And I think from a fan's point of view, it's a case of, they've got to stick with it. But they're going to need you. They're going to need your support. First game on Saturday, for example, like, are we going to go and beat Altrincham 4-5-0? Like, most probably not. Could happen. Yeah. But like, this is a new group of people. This isn't the same group that were together last year. This is not the same group that know each other for a year, 2 years. It's a new group of people. They're going to get things wrong. They're going to get things right. If they stick together off the pitch, a group, and they win, lose together, and they enjoy spending time with each other, that will make that easier. But also, you've got to demand off each other. Whatever happens over this first 10, 15 games is not going to define us. It's just going to be a part of what we're building, and they need to they see the players, because it is a club where you do see the players. You will bump into them. You will go walk through the stadium and see each other, because it's that type of. Get behind them, support them. If it doesn't go right, don't worry about it. The next one, because that's what I'll be doing behind the scenes.
Just to play devil's advocate a little bit, to look at it from the other side of things. Obviously, we touched upon the big, turnover of players both in and out the football club. Is there any sort of worry for you as a manager that like it might take 4, 5, 6 weeks for it to gel and start clicking? And it is that in your thought process as a manager, or is it just that you have faith that like you and your recruitment team have picked out the right characters that are just going to be able to come in and hit the ground running? Because sort of, where does that sort of lay in sort of your internal expectations for this season? Like, I personally, in my little season prediction, I had Sutton occupying a playoff place this season. I fancy you for a playoff place, but is the sort of turnover of players, is it a worry that it could take 5, 6 weeks for it to bed and start gelling, or is it just something that you're going to take in your stride, really?
I think we take it in our stride. I think the reality is, as long as they carry out what we ask them to do, we've got a chance. We're not doing our job right. We believe in ourselves as staff to give them the right messages and give them the right information. It is a tactical game, ultimately. Carry out the game plan. Don't deviate from the game plan. Then you give yourself a chance. We don't spend all week planning for you to go and do something completely different to what we've asked you to do. Otherwise, we might as well not bother. We might as well just go and play. So yeah, look, that's not something I'm worried about. I think it's take it, because nowadays each game is different. what we're going to face on Saturday against Oldham is going to be different to what we face on Tuesday against Wealdstone, and we have to plan for each game accordingly, and use all the information we've got to make sure we put the fittest, freshest team on a pitch every game, and then make sure we counter out any kind of difference of tactics that we find from the other team, but ultimately carry out the game plan that we put in place and spend a hell of a lot of time.
In terms of like your season, then, with your sort of hopes and aspirations, where do you see this Sutton project through your eyes at the minute? Like, are you obviously I know managers will come and say, you know, like autos are the aim, or to win the league is the aim, like the playoffs is the aim, but like what, considering where you are as a football club now with the high turnover of players and new investment, like what does a successful first season at this level look like for Sutton United under Steve Morison?
It's impossible to say. Ultimately, the world's our oyster as a football club at this level. There's no the excuses have all been taken away. We try the best we can. We have the best pitch in the league, bar none. So all those things that were factors last year, we're in the community, we're local. The group is a young, hungry group. Yeah, anything can happen, and that's what's exciting about it. And you know what confidence does to people. You go on a run, the team can do anything. I suppose it's going to be my job to make sure that they always stay grounded, and if it's not going right, that we give them the tools to get back on track. So, yeah, as I said, me along with the other 24 teams will all be saying the same thing. We all want to get promoted, and that's the aim.
Of course.
Realistically, we just want to perform the best we can. As cliche as it sounds, just each game. Altrincham the next one, and we'll deal with Wealdstone on Sunday. Like this, once our 5 hits on Saturday, we'll deal with Wealdstone. Do you know what I mean? And that's how we got with people that we're going to have to go game by game, and I think that's actually not a bad place to be.
I think so. Obviously, this weekend the National League kicked off, and you kicked off your National League campaign with a 1-1 draw with fellow National League new boys, Tamworth. How did you see that game yourself? Obviously, from sort of reading match reports and stuff, it looked like it was quite an even game, and probably on the day either side probably felt like they probably could have took all 3 points. Would you agree with that sort of narrative of the match? And obviously for game one, I think it's important as well with a league like this. Nobody takes note of like a league table shaping up or anything like that. So maybe, in my opinion, probably like 12 to 15 games in, that's where I probably start to look at a league table from a fan's point of view. But in terms of your sort of like first game in the National League, and how did you see Saturday? And are you happy with some of the signs that you saw? And like, do you still think there's like lots that you can improve on?
Oh yeah, 100%. The game was brutal Saturday. There wasn't anything fun about it. It was baking hot. Sun was beating down. A tired AstroTurf. A game where I think the ball was in play for about 30 minutes. It was what it was, and it was, from our point of view, it was something that I was worried about. The game, I've been worried about it since the fixtures were announced, because we knew what it was going to be like, and I'm just really proud of them for standing up to that, dealing with it took, I think it was on average like 40 to a minute for every goal kick, for every long throw. Like, it was just the slowest game in history, and yeah, look, I was gutted. We had a couple of chances early on, we didn't take them. Then we lost Dylan De Silva to a knee injury, which was going to rule him out for a few months, and he was arguably our best player in that first 20 minutes, and had been our best player in pre-season. And yeah, look, the other positive is to come out of the game with a point once we conceded so late. and that showed great character and resilience from that group of players. A new group of players, by the way, like we spoke about. They could have gone under, they didn't. And yeah, look, tough place. Going to be a tough place for a lot of teams, especially at this time of year where the weather's the way it is. If it was wet, maybe been a slightly different game. But look, credit to Tamworth from what they need to do to what they feel they need to do to get results. I said we looked at the data after the game and the stats, and as I said, on the whole, we edged most of the game. I said I think they had 54 passes in the whole game, so it tells you the kind of data and the information from the game. I said we had a lot more possession. We had a lot more. We posed a bigger threat throughout the whole game. We just didn't take those chances when we did get them. And to be fair, we gave up a few big chances with just a few mistakes from ourselves, which is going to happen in football. But yeah, look, from a point of view of coming back and getting a point, I think it's a great point. It's a great point. You pick up points on the road. It stands you in good stead.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you said obviously you didn't really take much note of it when you seen the calendar and the fixtures come out. I wanted to know that as a manager, when the fixtures come out, how much notice do you take of? Or for example, we're playing Oldham on Boxing Day or whatever. In terms of logisticals, I imagine you might look at it. But do you? How do you scan a league season in terms of, do you take it month to month? Do you take it game to game? Like in terms of your aims, like how do you dissect a fixture list really? I've always been interested.
We're not worried about Oldham, but anyway.
No?
I'm joking. I'm only joking. No, like as I said, it was the first game. I said I was worried about the Tamworth game. It was just one of those fixtures. It was just like there's an expectation, and you know what happens in those games 9 times out of 10. And yeah, look, I was worried about the fixture. Obviously, we're a new group. They're a team that have been together for a long time. Obviously, we knew it was going to come about. So, as I said, you do take note. Like, you also take note of the fact we've got 6 games in the first month. And some really interesting games in there. Altrincham playoff finalists last year. Wealdstone, obviously with a new manager. York with a new manager. Obviously looking to be better than they were last year. Eastleigh looks like they've invested quite heavily in their squad. That's another tough game. And then you go Forest Green on TV at the end of the month. So like we played that game towards the end of last season. Obviously that we won't be the same team that they saw that period. And obviously within that as well, you've got the 2 games in 3 days, haven't you? The bank holiday, Saturday, Monday. So I haven't looked personally on beyond that, but you do take note of 2 overnight fixtures where we'll be staying away in the whole of till January, and then also you look at January and you go, we have to spend most of our time up north. So I know you guys love it up there, but I didn't enjoy it as much when I played. But yeah, look, so you do take note. You know what's going on, and a group point of view will focus on August, and then we'll see where we are after the Forest Green game, and then we'll focus on September.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we know you're a very, very busy man here, so I've just got 2 kind of questions to wrap it up here. And the first one is sort of, if we were chatting in the end of May, what do you what is your aim? Well, you don't have to give your secrets, but what would a perfect like debut season look like for Sutton in the National League? Would it be champions, or is there something deeper than that? Is it about, like you say, you've had all these players, you got to gel them in. So is it more about like squad bonding and sort of that side of things, or is your aims to get out of this league as fast as you can? And then the second sort of prong to that is, in 5 years, what does Steve Morison, the manager, look like in your opinion?
Yeah, like 100%. Look, we can get promoted. It'd be amazing because it's not something that happens. So, as I said, that'd be an amazing situation. 5 years time, to still be managing. I think in this day and age and this world we're in of football, coaching, managing, it's to still be doing it, still enjoying it. And I was talking to my assistant in the car on the way, and I said, we'll know we're doing all right is if we finally see the roadworks finished on the M25 over by Woking, because apparently that's summer 2025. So we'll see how we get on.
Nice. So yeah, listen, I just want to say from us, and I'm sure Lauren will echo this, we really appreciate your time this evening, Steve. And obviously, we're a very, very new, fresh podcast ourselves, so we appreciate that we're definitely taking it as a massive compliment that we're doing something right, that we're getting football clubs noticed this early. So we really appreciate your time. We also know that Sutton have been sharing this out and live streaming this, so we appreciate that as well. And I wish you nothing but the best, apart from when you come to Boundary Park and we come up to you. And yeah, I'm sure you'll have a very successful season. So yeah, thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much.
No problem at all. Thank you very much. And whoever's smoke alarm needs a new battery, you need to get it sorted out.
Ooh. I'll make a note of that.
No worries.
Thank you,
Thank you
Steve.
very much. Cheers. Thank you.